The most mind-blowing artifact in Fullmetal Alchemist is the Philosopher Stone. There's no doubt about that. But everyone thinks that the Philosopher Stone is just a MacGuffin, the thing that Ed and Al are chasing to get their bodies back. But it's more than that. It's a moral test, one that every character that comes in contact with it has to contend with. And the funny thing is, this is all based on something bad that happened in Hiromu Arakawa's hometown. So let's get into it. I talk a lot about Fullmetal on this channel because it's one of those series that is considered perfect. It's gritty and dark, it's very mature, and it's extremely funny. I mean, I can't even make a short joke without thinking about Edward's reactions. Not many series can achieve that level of balance, or short jokes. Throughout the story, we've always heard about the law of equivalent exchange, which is something that every form of alchemy has to follow. The law suggests that something must be given for something in alchemy. If you want to create a wall out of concrete, you must have lots of concrete. If you want to create gold, then you cannot get it from plastic. That's not how this works. The idea of equivalent exchange is that everything has a price. Whatever you want can be gotten if you pay the required price. It's simple, logical, and it's grounded in reality. But in the story of FMA, there's something that can help you bypass this law, and that's the Philosopher Stone. You probably already heard about the stone from another popular franchise. I'm talking about Harry Potter. The reason I bring up Harry Potter is that the stone from Harry Potter was also a red crystal, and I think this is what inspired the iconic red look that we see in Fullmetal. That's not even where the similarities stop. There's also the idea of splitting yourself into 7 pieces. Sounds a lot like an anime villain that I know. The idea of the stone is one that shows up in the other movies and series. It is sometimes known as the elixir of life, and it basically does the same thing every time, grant the user immortality and sometimes even turning things to gold. But it's in Fullmetal that his stone starts being not just a plot device or MacGuffin, but something much, much deeper. In Fullmetal Alchemist, the stone is powerful. It is near indestructible and only ever really destroyed when the energy inside the stone is depleted. It also shapeshifts. It can be liquid, a solid, and even exist as the blood inside of a human. It's just freaky. But what makes the Philosopher's Stone extremely important in this story is that it's the one thing that can bypass the law of equivalent exchange. It's a literal hack if there ever was one. With the Philosopher's Stone, you don't have to worry about having concrete. It is the concrete and the gold and anything else you want it to be to get whatever you want via alchemy. Now, while that may seem like a good thing, there's something extremely sinister about the stone, and that is the way in which it is created. The way to create a Philosopher's Stone is by sacrificing the lives of human beings, like actual human death. And it's not just the death of humans that fuels the stone, but their souls. The souls of the sacrificed humans are collected and coalesced into forming the mass that makes up the energy within the stone. This is something the Aldrich brothers find out early in the story. The story starts with the boys joining the Amastrian army in order to find a Philosopher's Stone that will help them get their bodies back. But in their research, they found out some pretty disturbing things. For example, one stone can contain anywhere from hundreds to thousands of souls, all serving as fuel for any kind of alchemy. The more souls you have, the more energy you possess to do as you please in your alchemy. Hence, if you want a lot of energy, you have to kill a lot of people. This poses a big moral question because, as we have established, the stone requires a lot more than just a mixture of elements and minerals in order to exist. The presence of the stone is actually a big moral question, and it poses a test for everyone in the show, one that they all have to answer one way or the other. And that is, well, what is the value of a human life? And are your goals much more valuable than humans? Everyone in the show answers this question in their own way. Father is the most exemplary example. The man does not give a hoot if he has to sacrifice people for his personal gain. The entire story really starts when Father gets created from the blood of slave number 23. And from that moment, Father only had one desire, to be like God. And then he sacrificed the entire nation of Xerxes to give himself an immortal body with the creation of the Philosopher's Stones inside of him. Father's actions have one message and one message only. My goal and my desires are absolute. It doesn't matter who stands in my way. Human lives are a necessary sacrifice to serve my goals. In fact, they should be happy to serve it. I am superior, and that's all that matters. His willingness to sacrifice every human in a nation is the endpoint of equivalent exchange taken to its absolute conclusion. He's not a villain who went too far. He's what the philosophy produces. No pun intended. The even crazier thing is that Father begins a cycle of continuous human sacrifice. He creates the homunculus to do his bidding. They kill, they destroy, and literally eat people, all just to serve Father. Father's disregard for human lives and interest in sacrificing people is further shown during the Ishvalan Civil War, where an entire race of human beings was oppressed, marginalized, and even turned into Philosopher Stones. For 7 years, the Ishvalan suffered under the orders of King Bradley, who, as we know, was also a homunculi created by Father to further his plans. And it's not just Father. Everyone in the story who used the Philosopher's Stone used it in complete disregard for human life. Kimblee is one of those people who saw the Philosopher's Stone as power and as a way to exalt himself as a superior being, believing the stone to be his birthright and his means of doing what he wants. Once again, we get the concept of using the stone because it provides what the character wants. It makes them more powerful and freer. And we know for a fact that Kimblee does not give a damn if humans were killed to obtain it. He has no pretense of a worthy cause. The point is the power. That honestly is what makes him the series' most unsettling character. From character to character, we see everyone using the power for selfish reasons. Basque Grant uses it to make himself more powerful. Father Cornello uses it to do miracles so that he can be seen as a savior. Not for altruistic reasons, but just because he has the desire to be worshipped. And let's not even get started on every homunculus who not only uses Philosopher's Stones for some of the worst things ever, but also actively pushes for the creation of more. Philosopher's Stones in the story are just a means to an end, a very brutal shortcut to get what you want that leaves death in your wake. When it comes to the question of what the value of human life is, the answer that these characters have given in their use of the stone is that human lives don't matter. They're all basically fuel. What I find really striking about this dynamic is that it is very reminiscent of what Japan did to the Ainu people in the Hokkaido region of Japan in the 19th century. Now, for those of you who don't know, Hiromu Arakawa, the author of Fullmetal, was born in Hokkaido, a region in Japan that used to be known as the Izo region, a land filled with indigenous Ainu people, a tribe of hunters and gatherers who literally had their way of life taken because of the Japanese expansion. In the 1800s, Japan needed to secure its borders for a multitude of reasons, one of which was to ensure the safety of its land. They wanted a modern and unified nation, and they also wanted mineral resources which are plentiful in the Ainu region. Only problem is Ainu people weren't interested in all that. They liked to take things easy, to dance and paint their faces. They even spoke a different language. Can you imagine? So, during the Meiji government of Japan, the nation literally declared the Eizo region as empty land, even though it wasn't. And then they encouraged Japanese citizens to settle in the area, displacing the Ainu that were already living there. Not only that, they forcefully integrated those who were left into the nation, making them Japanese citizens. They gave them Japanese names, forced them to speak Japanese, took away their lands, their homes, and their resources, all because they wanted to create a large country. They were forced to stop their cultural practices like painting their mouths or even their traditional salmon fishing. And even though they were technically citizens of Japan, they were registered as lesser citizens, which led to decades of both social and systemic oppression for the Ainu people. By now, you're probably seeing that this story sounds oddly similar to the story of the Ishvalans in Fullmetal, and you're right, this story has a vital inspiration for Hiromu when she was writing the story. She wanted to bring more awareness to the atrocities that happened in her hometown because she has both Ainu heritage and Japanese settlers in her lineage. She is literally related to the oppressors and the oppressed. Weirdly, she's a victim of the system. What I find really interesting about this story is the fact that it ties into the philosophy of obtaining a Philosopher's Stone, which is, we sacrifice human lives for power. For the Japanese, the lives of the Ainu, the humans that lived in Izo, didn't matter. It was their goals, their pursuits, their interests. That's all that mattered. This is what the Japanese government did, and this is what Father, his minions, and the Amistrian government represent. This is the meaning behind the Philosopher's Stone. And just like Hiromu, there are also those who are victims of the system. Van Hohenheim, for example, is a victim of the search for Philosopher's Stones. He unwillingly became a Philosopher's Stone himself, with over 500,000 souls trapped inside him. Hohenheim is a victim of the system, the unintentional result that happens when people seek power without consequence. He is someone who unknowingly aided Father, and by doing so, got the blood of over 1 million souls on his hands. And he has to live his life trying to atone for it. Crazy thing is, that kind of thing doesn't just stop with you. It has a ripple effect for not just the world, but for his eventual family, which are the Aldrich brothers. Hohenheim couldn't even be around to raise his boys because there was so much he had to do, so much he had to make up for. He lost his wife and almost lost his sons because of what was done to him. Same thing with a man like Dr. Marcoh, who participated in the creation of the Philosopher's Stones from the Ishvalan soldiers. This was initially done as an act of patriotism, and like Hohenheim, when he realized the malevolence behind his actions, it scarred him for life, and it set him on a path of atonement. Just like Hohenheim, Marcoh is a victim of blind and vicious ambition, and he was forced to figure out a way to fix his mistakes. Marcoh used the stone to heal people because the power had already been created. It might as well be used for something good. At the end of the story, he used it to heal Roy Mustang's eyes on the condition that Roy helps the Ishvalan people. So far, we've established the true meaning of the Philosopher's Stone and how most characters interact with the truth. Guys like Father are okay with having no value for human lives by using the stone. Guys like Hohenheim are victims who have no choice but to use the stone. And this brings us to our two main protagonists and what the search for the Philosopher's Stone reveals about them. Say what you want about Ed and Al, but the boys are the only people who truly made the decision not to use a power that's literally made for human sacrifice. They had a choice, and they chose right. No one exemplifies this quality better than Ed. For Ed, alchemy is a shortcut. It's the thing that helps you get what you want quickly without too much risk. Like everyone else in the series, Ed initially bought into the idea that getting your goals by all means is important, especially if it doesn't come at personal cost to you. That's what Father, Kimblee, and everyone who used the power of the stones for nefarious purposes do. Get what you want by any means and kill whoever you have to do it. Even guys like Mustang use the Philosopher's Stones as a means for self-preservation and empowerment, and just justified it by doing things at the end of that. But guys like Ed and Al, they started off by making a huge mistake. They could not accept the loss of their mother, and they wanted to get her back any means necessary, even after they were warned by their master not to attempt human transmutation. They did the unthinkable. They tried to cheat death with alchemy, and we know how that turned out. Realizing their mistakes, they decided it was best to look for another shortcut to get back their bodies. Ed was still trapped in the mindset of a typical alchemist, which is that you must give an equally worth material to get what you want, or you'll just get a Philosopher's Stone and use it. And when they found out the cost of what it took to make the Philosopher's Stone, based on the principle, they decided they were not going to try to make one. But even in the story, Ed and Al still used the Philosopher's Stone. Ed used it to get out of Gluttony's stomach. But similar to Hohenheim and Marcoh, it was in a situation where he had no choice. But eventually they realized that using human lives to preserve yourself or to fix your mistakes is just as bad as what Father and the homunculi were doing. It's all a selfish play that puts you at the center of it all. They realize that human life is non-negotiable. It's worth more than tools for correcting his own mistakes. That's why in the end, Al chose to give up his soul so that Ed could regain his arm to beat Father. This was Al letting go of that selfish mindset into a selfless one. It's also why Ed decided not to use the Philosopher's Stone to bring back Al. He sacrificed a part of himself, the part of him that lets him do alchemy. He chose not to take any more shortcuts and actually started paying the real price for his goal and ambition. And even the god of alchemy, Truth, had to confess that he made the right choice. You have to stop trading lives because lives are priceless and people are priceless. You have to stop looking for shortcuts to solve your problems, and you have to start thinking about how your actions affect other people. They say at the beginning of every story, there's the thing that the characters think they want, and there's something, the thing that they actually need. The story of FMA starts off with the characters thinking that they want or even need the Philosopher's Stone to solve all their problems, but what they really need is to let go of the alchemist mindset. The mindset of thinking in terms of equivalent exchange and actually taking personal responsibility. It's what Father should have done, because despite all his planning and blatant human sacrifice, he lost. His desire for power ultimately led to his undoing. The same thing happened to Kimblee and to anyone who set out to selfishly sacrifice human lives for their own benefit. Amistris should have found a better way, just like Japan should have found a better way of dealing with the Ainu people. It's what the Germans, who the Amistrian nation was also based on, should have done. The point of FMA is not the Philosopher's Stone, it is to stop trading human lives for your selfish interest, to stop using shortcuts, and to stop this relentless pursuit of power. This is what the story is really trying to tell us. I hope that clears things up. So drop your thoughts in the comments below and let us know what you think about this conclusion. Do you agree? And what do you think about the real-world references that the story has? That's it for this video. If you want to see more, then check out these ones right here.